hit or miss. I guess they never miss her. You got a boyfriend, I bet he doesn't kiss ya. Ma, you go find another girl and he will miss ya. He goes scared and hits it down like Wiz Khalifa.
Hi everyone, for those of you who have Instagram, you may or may not have noticed a little trend, realistic role playing. And in this trend, you may have seen some edits that people tend to be doing, such as martingales, breastplates, trace clips, injuries, blankets, and all of that stuff. And you may be curious on how you can edit it into your own photos. And I'm going to show you a way you can do this. The program that I use is very simple and it's actually free. I'm not sure if you can get it on PC or Windows. I'm on a Mac. So yeah, the first thing that we're going to do is obviously take some photos. So here, I decided I would take the photo from here, as you can kind of clearly see where the martingale would go and where the breastplate would go and all of that stuff. So first thing we're going to do is make sure that the sun is on the horse. You don't want to have a photo like this where it's like on the dark side of your horse. So I'm going to leave the light where it was before. I don't tend to do depth of field, because I find it doesn't really work so well for me. So once I have the photo, I'm just obviously going to take it. I right click and go on. Open it with Fire Alpaca. Fire Alpaca is a speed painting program. It's not like Photoshop. However, you can do things such as, moving things around. So if I wanted to take that tree and move it around, I can kind of edit it, bend it around like that if I really wanted to. Obviously, I'm going to undo everything. So this is mainly like a speed painting app. You've got a lot of brushes to choose from, a lot of tools that you could use. So I'm going to be showing you guys my process. So the first thing that I do is on the original base layer of the image. I don't tend to use a lot of layers like some people do. I just find it confuses me even more. So the first thing that I do is choose the appropriate brush size. And I erase the reins. And as you can see, I don't use the clone tool. For this, I just go ahead and use the paintbrush tool or the pen tool. And it's so much easier for me to do this when I take the photos where the reins are kind of in the sky. So yeah. And then I take the blur tool and I just kind of use it to blend everything in. Then I do the same thing on the body. The body is a little bit easier. Then again, you have places like here, where you also have to do the saddle pattern. It's so annoying. You should always be careful when doing it on the edge of the image. So I tend to use colors that I know I won't have to do a lot of blending for on the edge, because I don't want it to, blend with the sky or something like that. But generally, this is a pretty quick process. It just maybe, I don't even have, those Wacom tablets? Yeah, I don't have any of those, so it's a little bit more painful for me, because I'm always using my trackpad. It's fine. And then for the smaller bits, I just right click to get the correct shade, or you can use the eyedropper tool. And then I take my eyedropper tool and my pen and I just go over it again, and it doesn't really matter because these are just really small details. And you can barely see the reins on my jacket or anything. The only place that I really have to remove it are from my gloves. So for the martingale, I don't need to do much, but what I like to do is obviously make a new layer. And for realism purposes, I will make a bit so that it looks like it's in the mouth. I don't want to start one of those bit arguments things. I don't think that I'm educated enough to have a say on whether I am for or against bits. For me, I find it so much easier and you get so much a very nice controlled result if you use the polyline tool, and you can actually make really nice curves with this as well. So you can experiment with how thick you want it to be. I'm happy with this thickness, so I go ahead and I just draw that on, and I stop in the middle, and then I go up the other way. You can see that was a really bad curvy line, but and then I just put it to go under, and then there's the breastplate almost done. The next thing that I do is I go back to freehand and I choose another area in the image where there's a cotton, so or like fluffy, if you'd like to call it. And I just make a circle at the cross area and draw another circle in it. Then I go back to my polyline tool and I add in the martingale thing. Normally, and there's one way you can do it, I kind of took it from an awkward view as well. Last thing that I do is I add in my reins, which tend to be straight lines, but not always. Let me show you guys how I do a different type of martingale. So again, I'm doing the eyedropper tool, selecting the stuff, and normally martingales are kind of around their neck, from kind of heard of, like, or seen. They're kind of around the neck rather than, always good to have reference photos. Obviously, you should not trust everything that I'm saying because it's obviously not going to be fully realistic. I didn't use martingales in real life. And I just do the same kind of thing. And that's how you get the martingales. Next, we're going to get a photo of the Hanoverian's face, and we're going to turn it into a figure 8 bridle. So this one's a little bit more complicated because of how the bridle was originally placed. But yeah. But I go ahead and I do the same thing as I did before, but this time I'm erasing the actual bridle, and I erase a lot of it. I erase everything until, yeah, pretty much everything from the top, from half of the bridle to the bit area. Then I obviously go ahead and I blend it all in. Then what I do is find a point on the head of the horse where I want the bridle to start. So obviously that area down there could be extended a little bit more. And then I go select ellipse, choose the color, choose the thickness, and then I have the bit. First thing that I'll show you guys how to do is the clip. So I create a new layer. I don't need to remove anything. And I'll select polyline and I'll make sure that it's at the darkest black possible. So there we go, and obviously it looks really weird. And then I press the fill tool and I change it to layer because we don't want it to be in canvas. And then you just select until everything is covered. Now you might be thinking that it looks really weird and that you don't want to follow this anymore, but trust me, it looks nice in the end. Then I decrease the opacity, and then I'll take my eraser tool and I'll go on freehand and I'll just erase the excess parts that I can kind of see where I went over, just so that the photo doesn't look like it's weird or so that it doesn't look like it's badly edited. Anyway, so now we're gonna make a new layer and I'm gonna show you guys how I do my halter. And I choose kind of not a super bright color, but kind of this deep, dark, somewhat red. And then I go ahead and I do the halters. Then I check the thickness and I choose like a silvery color for the metal areas. And then I just draw out the metal areas with the polyline. And I erase the inside of the metal here. Then I go ahead and I go back to my pen, I go back on freestyle and then redraw the lines that go over the metal part. Then I go and I make the adjustment dots. Now I'm not actually sure where the adjustment dots on a halter would go, but yeah, I just make dots going down. And so those are a little bit too dark, and if I show you something here, I'll go protect alpha so that I can only draw on what I've already put on this layer. If I go and do the sides in like a darker red, I don't do this for my edits, I find it too extra. And then if I just make it a darker red on the side, and then I'll lessen the blur a little bit just because you can make it look super realistic like that. Well, I should probably do that more often. So, which is a nice blanket? Let's just choose this one. This one seems like a blanket that's kind of matching, and you want it to be really good quality image. And I press this square tool and I select polygon. And this is basically the select tool. So what I do is I just take a really rough outline of the blanket. So this is actually quite a good photo for a blanket. I don't like doing neck things. I find they're like really extra. Anyway, so then I do that, and as you can see, it's really good quality because it appeared quite big on the screen. Whenever you cut and paste something, it'll always kind of be like that. So now I kind of edit it to look like it's on the horse, and what I do, it's a trick for this, I lessen the opacity temporarily. Take my eraser and erase kind of the white part of the blanket, and I select it again. Now here, because it's the only thing on the layer, I don't need to be like too careful. So here I go, and I'm trying to get it how to fit the best thing, and this is a great tool. I use Command T to get it to this view. If I hold Command, I can like move the chest area forward and like widen it a little bit, and then I will push the blanket up and kind of edit it to be on the horse, and this is such a great tool. Then what I do is I go in with my eraser, and I only erase the top part because the bottom part of the blanket is kind of the important part of the blanket. You know, so I don't really want to erase it. So again, I'm being quite careful with how I erase it, and then I put it on back to full, and I just do a little bit of editing. So as you can see here, I erase a little bit too much, so the blanket doesn't look like it's a great fit, but that's how I get the blankets on. But I mean, thank you guys so much for this many amount of subscribers. Yeah, have a happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you.